Connecticut's COVID Business Complaint Form went live in May when the state began to reopen. The online form allows for someone to report a business for violating a state-ordered COVID safety rule. The website is overseen by the Department of Economic and Community Development. I spoke with David Lehman, who is the department's commissioner, about why the state felt the need to create the website and how they are using the information that's being collected. So what is the purpose of the state's COVID Business Complaint Form?
And the genesis of it was we wanted to do two things. One, we wanted to capture some data at the state level. Where are the complaints? What type of complaints are there? As we go through reopening, we thought that would be useful to have. But the main reason for the form and the main reason it was set up was to make sure that we're routing complaints to the right area. So for example, employee complaints get routed to a different area than customer complaints. And depending on if it's a federal, or if you're a state employee or in the private sector, it can get routed to a different OSHA area, for example. And then, the way that we set up with the reopening, depending on what type of venue it would be, your complaint could get routed differently to either local law enforcement or local public health. We are in the process right now of trying to add, especially for local public health, trying to add to it where, there can be, not only will it tell you local public health is responsible, but also routing that complaint directly to the specific health department that has authority for them to follow up directly to kind of avoid that extra step. And then certainly the public health will have the information of the individual to reach out and ask questions.
I'm clear now with the informational aspect of it. You also mentioned that it's collecting data so you can inform the state moving forward. How is that data going to be used? I mean, what will that data inform the state moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And this is probably one area where initially I thought it was going to be, arguably a richer data set than I think it turned out to be. And what I mean by that is, we've averaged, I think, 300 to 400, maybe some weeks 500 complaints per week, again, just in this portal, the kind of routing mechanism. And, we look at really a couple different things. One, we look at the amount of complaints, have they been steady? Are they increasing or decreasing? And they've generally been steady. Of late, they've increased a bit, but it's always tough from understanding, does that mean there's more non-compliance, or does that just mean more people are actually going about doing things 8 months into that? So there's a whole causality correlation question that we can have. But away from that, so we look at the number of complaints. Away from that, we do get data on where these complaints are happening. So is it all in retail? Is it in restaurants? Is it in movie theaters? And the like. And what we've seen there, again, is it's all over the place. There's not, one or two or three culprits. If you look, the complaints are across the board, and they typically mirror what people are doing and where they're spending their time. So grocery stores, for example, has been a big category. Does that mean grocery stores are more apt to not be compliant? I don't think so. I just think more people are likely to be in a grocery store than perhaps go out to dinner still. So that is something we look at, where the complaint's happening. And then the third piece of data is, what's the complaint? And here's where, I thought there would be a bit more information, but the complaints really tend to be in two main categories, which is one, venue is not enforcing mask wearing, and secondly, venue is not enforcing social distancing. One area where we did, the more we learned about kind of the mask wearing, when we amped up our kind of the mask mandate and made sure that, we really drilled down on compliance in it over the summer, we understood how important that was. And, that was some of what informed the focus on mask wearing, even still to this day. But that gives you a sense of kind of some of the data we've gotten, some of the decisions it's helped inform at least. But again, sitting here in May, if we had this conversation, I would have hoped that it would have been pointing us in a clearer direction. I think it's giving you a sense of it's a big economy with a lot of customers, and some folks see things that they don't like or don't think is compliant.
If there is a complaint in let's say a local municipality, what defense does the business have? I mean, what happens? The complaint gets filed, and then usually how does it work? The municipality approaches the business and they have to prove that they weren't doing it. Just can you walk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, if ultimately a call is made to a municipality, whether it's the police department or the health department, typically the first order has been a warning, and police have said, these are the rules, these need to be followed. There was an example today where there was a health club that came to my attention might not be as strict on the mask wearing. And, I reached out to the first selectman, and he said he was going to look into it with their police. So that's pretty typical where, the municipal chief elected official or their designee or the police will initially reach out. for venues where the health department has oversight, like restaurants, for example, or others, they will get involved, and they have the ability, if they see or observe non-compliance, to basically revoke the license and shut them down until it's remediated. And obviously there's fines as well.
Sometimes I think there's this perception that, the state is after businesses, but it seems like it's more working together. So maybe you can just clear that up. I mean, I know it's not your intention necessarily just to go after businesses. How do you feel your role is to help a business and, work together with the state?
Yeah, I mean, so listen, we're not trying to go after businesses. That's not, we want to go after bad actors, right? And this is where I'm very sensitive to, right? If 5 or 10% of the venues are not complying, but 90 or 95 are complying, and I don't want bad actors to give the whole sector a bad name. And I think most businesses are aligned on that front. And I think that's where you see there's an agreement that enforcement, and arguably enhanced enforcement, we want to see more of that, because the good actors, they don't have anything to worry about. It's the bad actors that are potentially polluting the water for everyone.
Reporting for CT News Junkie, I'm Adam Chiara.